Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Main, awesome wife and dog mom for life. I'm a sex therapist turned sex coach, and I run a successful business selling relationship enhancement products. I absolutely love talking about all things sex. So you can expect this podcast to explore all things related to women's sexual health because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you discover and embrace what brings you pleasure so that you can own your sexual self. If that sounds good to you, then keep listening and let's fucking do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast. I am so excited to have on today Maria Sellars. Maria and I actually met in May when I completed my Reiki level 1 training. Maria actually is from here in Michigan, but now lives in Florida. However, she is just so gracious. She does her training both in Florida and as well as in Michigan so that she can give back to the community that she's from, which I absolutely just adore about her. So a little bit about Maria before we get into this episode. Maria Sellars is a dynamic healing art practitioner who has been practicing Reiki since 2010. Over the years, she has watched energy work help people to transform their lives. Maria believes energy work is often the missing piece in people's lives that help them from being able to create lasting change. Her approach is inviting and accessible for all. Maria owns Heal Pain and Stress Relief Clinic in Altamonte Springs, Florida, and you can find her on Instagram at Orlando Energy Worker or on her website at www.mariasellars.com. I am so pumped to have her on today, you guys. As soon as I completed this Reiki training and learned more about the chakras and what each of our chakras house, I specifically wanted to have Maria on today so that we could focus on the sacral chakra. This is the chakra that houses your pleasure, your creativity, and your sexuality. And so we are talking today about how to unblock that sacral chakra so that you can embody your true feminine energy and really fully feel free. So I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's dive into this episode today. Thank you again so much, Maria, for coming on today. I'm super excited that our paths crossed back in May during the Reiki training, and I'm so pumped for you to be able to share this sacral chakra information with our listeners today. So thanks again for being here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor to be on your show.
Yeah, I'm so excited, as you know, coming from this sex space, but now bringing in the energy work to it. It's been quite interesting. At first, I was feeling like these two worlds were kind of existing separately, but now learning more about chakras and sacral chakras, it's like if I can get my work to focus and have it where these two can coexist with each other and just really figuring out what that is going to look like. I'm excited just for this podcast itself to be able to shed some light more so on the sexuality side of our chakras.
Yes, I mean, the two are so closely intertwined. Just like our energetic centers in general are so closely intertwined with our day-to-day lives and the things that we experience and do. So working with the sacral is definitely the way to, unlock that raw, divine, feminine energy. So I'm really excited to share more about it.
Yay! So can you share, like, when it comes to Reiki or even just energy work in general, can you share with us a little bit about your journey specifically and how you really fell into this life?
Yeah, what a journey it's been. Oh my goodness. So I kind of discovered energy work on accident. I started out as a massage therapist. Well, really, I started out as a personal trainer. That's why I left Michigan. We'll kind of get into all of it because it loops together. But that's why I wound up moving out of Michigan and leaving the Detroit area right after I graduated high school. And I think that part is really important, especially when talking about the sacral chakra, because, it's where we really start to manifest from. And, it's where we can visualize and see the life that we want to create for ourselves. So since I was a child, I used to tell my parents, like, as soon as I'm 18, I'm out of here. I'm headed to the beach, the palm trees, the sunshine, like I'm not doing any more of this winter, no more snow. And so a month after I turned 18, my dad was driving me to Florida, and, you know, he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad right now. I was like, Dad, I gave you 8 years to prepare for this moment. I've literally been telling you since I was 10 years old. So, you know, like moving to Florida and being in the sunshine is the first thing that I manifested. You know, it's the first step in kind of visualizing and creating that life that I wanted. So as I went through personal training school, I started it was like the recession during that time. So, you know, 2007, and it was not a great time to be a personal trainer. So I wound up working at the gas station. And when I was on shift one morning, I was actually robbed at gunpoint. And that's the day that I signed up for massage school. That's kind of what led me fully down this path, because had I just remained a personal trainer, I don't know that I ever would have fully dived in and gotten to know and grow within this industry, within this realm. So I've been a massage therapist since 2008, and 2 years into my massage career, a friend of mine asked me to go with her to a Reiki training. And, you know, we need continuing education as a massage therapist. So it was hours for that. I was like, okay, sure, I'll go. I had no idea what it was. And I wound up, when I left there, I thought that I wasted my money. I was like, what a crock that was. Like, you know, I walked out of there and I'm like, okay, well, there went, I don't know how much the training was, but it was a couple $100, which, you know, at that point in my time, being my, I think I just turned 20 when I had taken that, and living down on my own, it was a lot of money. So I was like, oh, I can't believe I wasted my money like that. And then maybe 2 months after I attended that training, I went out to Arizona because my best friend's mother had passed away. And as I'm sure you can imagine, her anxiety was heightened. Her emotions were all over the place. It was a lot to see her in that state. So I was like, okay, you know, I can give you a massage. So I gave her a massage, and she really started to drop in. And I was like, you know what? This is the time to test and try that whole energy work BS that I learned. So after I had worked on her, I didn't even tell her anything. I just started going right into the practice. And I did about 20 minutes on her. She wound up afterwards, she sat up and she's like, what did you just do to me? And I was like, I gave you a massage. And she's like, no, like, what was that electricity shit you just did to me? And I was like, oh my gosh, you felt that? And it was a pretty shocking moment for me, seeing as just 2 months before I had left that training thinking I totally wasted my money. And now here I was working on my friend who had no idea what energy work was, what Reiki was, what any of that stuff was. And she sat up and, you know, felt a shift. So that was the clicking moment for me. That was back in 2010. So I've been practicing energy work, for over 12 years at this point now. It's been just an amazing tool within my practice to watch people create the breakthroughs and the shifts that we're looking for, you know, to kind of break the life cycle of these self-limiting thought patterns that have been holding them back. And I get to see it every day within my practice. And it's just been incredible to watch and to witness, and the shift that has taken place with how people feel about energy work. Because when I first started way back, you know, in 2010, if I talk to people about energy work, I got so many eye rolls. It wasn't even funny, you know, people are like, okay, whatever, Maria. And now it's just mind blowing to me, because there has been such a spike in the understanding of energy work and the way that it impacts us. And so much so that, you know, I see doctors and counselors and nurses and so many people from the medical professional profession here on my table, receiving treatments, and not only that, but also referring their patients to come and try this type of work. And I mean, that's just, it's been so cool to watch and witness that kind of merging of the worlds, the East and West, and to see, how there's more acceptance of this work and the difference that it can make in our lives in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I can even relate so much to that story too. I've done years of therapy, talk therapy, EMDR therapy, right, for my anxiety and other things, just racing thoughts, intrusive thoughts, all of that. And it hasn't been until I recently started to get more into meditation, practicing Reiki, doing the self-practice, and this was end of May that you held this training. So I'm only speaking after, a month and a half of work, and now being able to bring this to other people. I truly agree. And I know I'm in the very early stages. I mean, you've been doing this for years, so I'm very excited just to see how much further this gets to go and how many more lives I can really help throughout this. So yeah. Thank you again for
all the confirmation pills and all teary with that, because I mean, that's it. That's what it's all about, is giving people that missing piece. And talk therapy and things like that are so beneficial and so necessary. But until we really learn to transform the energy with that, instead of just speaking the words over and over again and never really dealing with the energy and the emotion behind that, because we can speak about it, but the more we speak about it, the more we're kind of bringing those things up. Mm-hmm. So as we add energy work in, it helps us to shift the energy around that. So instead of when we talk about it, getting more and more consumed and tighter and full of it all, we can have these experiences and learn and grow from them and share them with other people from our own journeys and not be getting consumed with it. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm glad that you said that. Like, therapy is so important. I don't want anybody to think that I was saying, do energy work instead of therapy. I think that the two should coexist together. Thinking back to, a year ago, it wasn't until I was at a retreat last year where the person that was running the retreat did like a sound bowl breathwork thing with me. And the meditation that I was able to drop in, just how deep I was able to drop in, and the visualizations and things that came up during that, I was like, holy shit, like this, no wonder, my therapist had been telling me for years, essentially, like, you should try meditation, you should try being more quiet, you should try slowing down, right? And I'm like, I'm just a person that's always go, 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 so that was all bullshit to me. But it wasn't until essentially I was forced to do it and to see, like, wow, this is actually magical, and to now be bringing that more into my daily practice has made such a difference with my anxiety symptoms. And as we're going to get into, more of the sexuality pieces of this too.
Yes. The more we can really step away and settle into that space of stillness, the more we can really boost our creation and our productivity and really make life colorful again. I mean, truly, instead of it just kind of being that mundane over and over same thing. When we begin to invite meditation in, it just sparks this fire within us. And I know for me, meditation has been such a pivotal tool in my life and in my mind. I have ADD, so I'm kind of all over the place. And I always thought that, like you said, I couldn't sit still. It's just something that I can't do. And as I learned to sit still, I learned to harness all of that potential of my mind, and the things that had once upon a time just been, projects that I started were now, things that I was bringing to life and projects that I was birthing. And it just was so cool to see me go from that place where it's like, I can't ever get things done, to finding stillness and being able to do way more than I ever thought, which I thought it was always the opposite. If I'm still, I'm not being productive.
Yeah. Still trying to unlearn that.
Yeah. Yeah, I swear, it's like the more not doing that we can do, the more doing that we get done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when it comes to chakras, if we can sort of go through maybe a basic education or a rundown of just the 7 main chakras, would you mind just going and giving us a brief synopsis of each of them?
Yeah, I'll try to be super brief with it. I do actually have a training as well. It's like a 60-minute training that goes into each of the different 7 main ones, just a little bit more than I'll kind of dive into now. But it's a super great place to start if you're just familiarizing yourself with the different chakras and the ways that they, integrate within our lives. I would highly recommend checking that training out because it's simple and easy to understand, and it'll be a great starting point for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So the 7 main chakras, and if you just Google a picture of like where they are, you'll kind of get the gist, but I'll describe a little bit about where they're located. We have your first chakra, which is your root, and that one's located in the tailbone area. The color of this chakra is red. So this is our source, our sense of survival, of feeling safe, of belonging. As we move up, we get into the sacral, which we'll kind of be diving a lot into today. And that is located just below the navel area. The color of this chakra is orange, and it is our source of feeling. So it's really important to learn to move with this one and invite that fluidity into your lives. We have just above that our solar plexus, which the color of this is yellow. So, as you're kind of here, we're working with that rejuvenative like we learned in school. So really we've been learning about the color spectrum and the light spectrum and energy for our entire lives, right? It's just, they don't dive in and give us as much information about what the color and light spectrum really is. I just always think it's so fascinating when you look at the tie-in of the two. So even though what you're hearing about energy work may be new for you right now, you have been learning about it, in through school, just in different ways. So we have the third chakra, which is the solar plexus. The color of that is yellow. This is our sense of self, who we are. Coming up above that, we have our heart chakra. Just go ahead and put your hands over your heart. Tell yourself I love you. It's so important to do. We don't do that nearly enough. But the color of this chakra is green, and obviously this is our center of love, both the love that we have for ourselves and the love that we have for others too. So moving up from there, we have the throat, and the color of the throat is blue. This is our source of communication, the way that we outwardly express ourselves here in this beautiful world that we live in. And coming up from there, you have your third eye. Again, this is something we've kind of always heard about, but we have our third eye located right in between the eyes, between the brow. And this is the way in which I see the world. And then moving up from there, so that's indigo, I'm sorry. Moving up from there, we have our crown chakra, and this is how we connect with the rest of the beings in this world. And, that's people, plants, animals, all of that. We are so connected, and yet we feel so separate. So as we really start to work with our energetic centers, we can align with that beautiful source energy and feel the connection and support that we have from the universe. And it's a really beautiful thing to experience.
Yes, I love that. And the training that you mentioned, if somebody was wanting to go dive deeper into this, is it at your website, mariasellars.com?
It's actually going to be up there by the end of the week. So I don't know when you're going to be putting this up, but yeah, it will be up there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, by the time this episode comes out, it will be available there.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. So yeah, as we're going into, as you were saying, so the sacral chakra is what we're really wanting to focus on today. So can we go a little bit more into information about this? Like, what is it that the sacral chakra regulates? How would somebody know if it was unbalanced? And then we'll definitely go into tips of being able to get some good, like, flowing energy through there.
Yeah, I am ready for it. So our sacral chakra is our source of pleasure. So obviously that's going to be really important for your podcast listeners. You know, if we are shut off and blocked through our sacral chakra, then we are cutting ourselves off from allowing ourselves to really feel pleasure and to feel joy. You know, the sacral, that's where all of our feelings lie. Mm-hmm. So if we're blocked in through this area, then we're not giving ourselves permission to experience all of the great things that life has to offer. And we wind up, you know, it's either we are over worrying about different things coming up, right? We spend so much time in our heads thinking about, you know, how we're feeling or how they're feeling or whatever this is, and our mind's just racing constantly, and you know, and worrying so much about that, even if all we're doing is worrying about other people, not even ourselves, right? We are shutting ourselves up. We are stifling that flow of energy. When we are feeling guilty, that's another big thing that sits in the sacral. So, for instance, if you eat a cookie and the whole entire time you're eating this cookie, like all you're fucking doing is feeling guilty about this cookie, you're not going to enjoy it. Like, there's no pleasure within that. So that's how our sacral really gets into our mind, and it can inhibit us from feeling joy and pleasure and feeling unworthy. And when we feel those things, we can't ever really express ourselves in that way.
Yeah. And I think sometimes for people, when to those attributes itself, like lack of creativity, maybe lack of desire, lack of happiness or pleasure in their life, they might not necessarily think of it from the energy space, or they might have that mindset of like, well, that's just the way I am. I'm not a creative person. I'm not a sexual person. I'm not, you know, that type of person. So if you think of more of the like physical signs of somebody that they might experience, if let's say their sacral chakra was blocked or not having good energy flowing through, what would some of those signs be for somebody? Because again, coming from the world where Western medicine is our main source of help, essentially, I think that it's when people hear like, you know, oh, if I'm having lower back pain, if I'm having UTIs consistently, if this or that is happening, then that could be a sign that my sacral is blocked.
Yes, exactly. So anything through the reproductive organs, anything that you may be experiencing, that's going to show up as an imbalance, because within our chakras, we can be overactive or we can be deficient. So, or we can be imbalanced, which obviously is where we want to try to get to. But if you're experiencing kidney problems, anything within the reproductive organs, low back pain, digestive issues, you know, stomach aches are such a huge thing that, especially us women, right? We deal with stomach aches. I know I used to have the worst stomach aches of my life. And, you know, the sacral is something that I really have had to work a lot with. But for as far back as I can remember, I had stomach aches. And, you know, I was like, even in elementary school, I was always going out of the office and trying to go home because I had a stomach ache. And it's just, there was a point where I would go to bed with a heating pad on my stomach and I would wake up with a heating pad on my stomach. And the more I started to dive in and kind of like unlayer all of this, I realized that all of the things that I was feeling, because I was never given ways to work through my feelings as a child, right? And we had a lot of fucking feelings to work through, but my parents didn't have those tools. And, of course, like many of us are discovering now, our parents were going through life not having any tools to deal with their trauma. So how the heck were they going to give us tools to deal with ours? So I didn't really have an outlet or a source for working through my feelings, and, constantly feeling anxious. I had TMJ even so bad, from clenching, keeping my mouth shut, right? Because it's like I'm feeling all these things, but then I'm keeping my mouth shut and not vocalizing them. And your sacral and your throat are really tied together. So, all of these feelings that we're holding onto start to just eat away at our digestive system. And then we wind up with, these stomach aches. And it's just because all of that stuff that we're trying to stomach and hold in. So as we begin to work with the sacral chakra and the energetic potential that has, the feelings can flow. And that's what feelings should do. Feelings are not permanent states. Feelings are temporary. They're fluid and they should move. But when we're holding all of that in and not allowing ourselves to feel, then they get stuck and we wind up with these knots in our fucking stomach and heating pads that we wake up with and go to sleep with and wonder where it's coming from.
Yeah. And so somebody starts noticing these things, they're listening to this right now and they think they resonate with this, right? They're like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm having reproductive issues, maybe I'm having UTIs, maybe I'm lacking creativity, low sex, pain with sex even, right? And maybe they, again, not canceling out Western medicine, but looking at this as more of a tool to bring into the mix. So let's say when you were speaking to that, I started thinking, people that experience pain due to endometriosis or PCOS, right? If they're bringing in this energy work and focusing, let's say specifically on the chakra, the sacral chakra, just that meditation alone and that focus to that area to send the love, send the light to that area can just make such a difference. I think because around mindfulness itself.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I had multiple cysts on my ovaries that ruptured, and holy shit, that is some painful stuff. It is incredibly painful, and those are things that I was dealing with in my late teen and early 20 years before I got started with this work. But like you said, just holding your hands, on your ovary space and the whole reproductive organ area, where the sacral chakra lies, holding your hands there and just saying to yourself, I am sending love, I am sending light, I'm sending healing energy, bringing those things in. I love my body. Saying that to yourself, because for us women especially, we talk so much shit to our bodies, right? We're so mean to ourselves. Even so, being around, your period or time of the month, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel fat, or I feel this, and we just say all these things and we use that term in front of it. I feel, right? And the more that we say that, and the more that we claim that, the more that we become that. So all of the shit that we talk to ourselves in that way, like I feel, we really need to learn to reword that, to rephrase that. Instead of I feel it, like I'm experiencing bloating. That's okay. We can have things as an experience, but we don't want to claim them as a feeling or as something that's going to be more permanent within our bodies. And I think and even when we're just joking about it, I feel so stupid, I feel like an idiot, these things that we say to ourselves on the day to day, we really need to be mindful, because all of that shit that we talk to ourselves, keeps us from ever really manifesting the life that we want, because we're always telling ourselves that, you know, we're what we don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that too, like putting your hand over that area and, you know, thinking back again to my anxiety that I would not nearly as much experience now. In fact, in the last month, I can't even think of a time that I've experienced anxiousness, which is honestly just crazy. I think, again, the meditation, the Reiki, the spending more time with self. I finally have a good mushroom microdosing protocol that I've been using. Like, it just all in conjunction with each other. Shit is going well over here. So, but I remember thinking, you know, for me, anxiety would show up in situations that maybe I was going to be around a lot of people, or situations where, maybe out of my control, wouldn't have an easy escape to get out if I needed to leave, like those sorts of things. And so I remember just specifically when I'd be driving, if I was driving to those places and feeling that anxiousness come up, I would just put my hand over my lower abdomen. That's also where my anxiety would resonate. Same thing, stomach aches, just knots in my stomach, feeling like I would have to go to the bathroom when I really didn't have to, right? And that's like super fucking annoying to have to be experiencing on a regular basis. So I remember just like putting my hand over and feeling some of those things dissipate, and, you know, not even knowing really then that was actually energy work that I was doing, but it did help calm me. It did help just kind of reset and refocus. So I think that's a great tip for people to be able to use. And even as you were going through the chakras, and when you got to the heart chakra, right, putting your hand over your heart, sending love to that area, telling yourself that you love yourself. That's all of that is so important. And again, just with this chakra balancing stuff, that's what it really comes down to, is just giving attention to those areas and shining light in those areas of our body.
Yes, 100%. It's so important to do. It's so important to give ourselves credit, to pat ourselves in the back, to congratulate ourselves, to look in the mirror and say, I fucking love you. Mm-hmm. Like, you are a beautiful goddess. You know, how often do you do that? And it's really important, you know, that we feel ourselves in that way. Not even just talking sexually, but just like feel yourself. You gotta feel yourself before you can feel yourself, you know? And I think it's so important to spend time sending love to those areas that you don't give enough attention to, you know, that you kind of shut yourself off from, or where you feel these sensations, where, you know, like you said, feeling those knots in your stomach and just putting your hands there and sending them, you can just say healing energy. I mean, we all, whether you've been trained in energy work or not, we're all energetic beings. So we all have this ability to work with energy. Mm-hmm. And so as long as you have the intention of, that's what I'm doing right now, is sending this in, like, you really are creating that shift. And if you deal with, you know, regular issues within those areas, like, spend 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night just holding your hands there, sending that loving, light, healing energy into those areas, and you are going to see a major fucking transformation. I mean, that's where it all begins. Nobody else can transform our lives for us. Mm-hmm. We have to do the work. So like you're saying, like you figured out what protocol works for you, and that's for you right now. It's going to change. You know, there's always, again, the element actually of the sacral chakra is water. So allowing ourselves to be fluid instead of creating this whole plan that we have a story around, and we're very rigid, and it's like, it's got to go right fucking here, and if it doesn't go right fucking here, then the day is ruined, my life is ruined, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to overthink it, I'm going to tell myself all these stories that aren't true, when I could have just shifted it to the left and it really is no problem. But we get so stuck within that. So when we embody the element of the sacral chakra and we allow ourselves to be fluid within life, we open ourselves up to so much more potential in so many ways. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible, because we can have a plan to work from, but if we're so stuck within that, then we can never allow ourselves to see what the universe has in store for us, you know, which could be even better than what we had planned. It is even better than what we had planned. We just got to start moving in the right direction. But when we hold so tight and are like, this is the way it needs to fucking go, like, you're shutting yourself off. You're cutting yourself off. So, and you're creating more anxiety than needs to be there. So be fluid, like grow with the flow.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Grow with the flow. Oh my gosh. So what are other ways that somebody could, what are other ways that people could use to balance their sacral chakra?
So some really simple things, you know, that we can do are wearing the color orange is really great. I wear a little orange today just to kind of embody and tap into that energy. Eating things that are the color orange, so inviting those into our diets. If there's a certain chakra that I feel like I'm really working with, I'll make smoothies with all things that are that color, just to help and invite that energy, raise that vibration within. We can carry stones. A couple of great ones for the sacral are carnelian, which is the stone of community. And I mean, this is where our relationships birth and come from, is, you know, with the sacral. That's how and our relationships, not just, you know, with partners, but, you know, our relationships with friends and colleagues and all of these things as well, right? The same thing, like, if we can shut the stories off that we tell ourselves from, like, what we feel, and I don't mean like what we feel intuition wise. I mean like when we're like, oh my gosh, I feel like they looked at me a certain way, and like make this whole story up, or oh my gosh, you know, my friend didn't call me back, or even more, my friend didn't answer my text and she must hate me, and like, you know, this whole narrative that we create. Instead of just sending another text like, hey, what's going on? Because people get busy. We're all busy. We all have things happening. But yet when other people do it, we create stories around it. So, you know, if carrying carnelian, I feel like kind of can help us to just remember that sense of community, and remember that everybody, you know, has things going on, things growing on, within them. Tiger's eye is another really good one. And, orange, like calcite or citrine are really great stones to work with for that too. You can take a bath, you know, putting some like carnelian or tiger's eye around the bathtub, holding yourself in that energy space, bringing orange flowers in, or working with some of the essential oils. Another favorite thing of mine, you can drop some of those into your bathtub, or like have them running in the diffuser. I would say ylang ylang is really great for the sacral. It's a very feminine oil, helps to increase libido, just awaken that feminine energy. Rose oil is another really good one. And rose has the highest vibration of any oil. So, you know, like, take a day for you and set your bath up, you know, drop your oils in, and then get yourself sexy, whatever that looks like for you. And that doesn't mean, you know, maybe you do your makeup, maybe you don't. Maybe sexy, you put your sweatpants on and with your high heels and invite that sexy energy in. I mean, that it's going to look different for everybody. So, you know, we get so stuck again in our heads and these stories that we tell ourselves, where it's like, it's got to look like this, or it can't be that. Like, no, like, have that day for you, and then take some pictures of yourselves, you know, undress yourself, take some pictures of yourself naked, like, feel yourself. And again, that's just like really feeling, that's without even touching. Although I do, you know, work your way to that too, because the sacral is, also, you know, associated with touch. And if we're not being touched, then we're out of touch. So, you know, it's really important to work with that, and just to love on yourself, or, you know, the divine feminine that you are.
All the feels. Maybe instead of my nap after this, I'll go take a nice bath with some rose and all that. That sounds really nice.
Yeah, raise your vibe there.
Yeah, and I love that. You know, taking a bath, bringing in some of the orange colors, the orange foods, crystals. Even, I mean, you can go to any pretty much anywhere local shop that sells crystals, and they're going to have some of these things that you mentioned. Other things that I have found, like, you know, spending time in nature, journaling, using affirmations, you know, affirmations like I am sexy, I am worthy, I am divine, I am a goddess, like those sort of things, you know. And when you're saying your affirmations, you know, saying them into the mirror while you're actually looking at yourself, saying them out loud to yourself, you know, not just in your head reading them off of something. I think it just makes it even more powerful.
It's so important to get out of your head. Like, stop living life in your fucking head. That's what so many of us are doing, and it's cutting us off from actually living, because we have this whole world that we've created in our heads, and we are not choosing to live in the outer world and to connect in that way. So affirmations out loud are huge. Speak it to the universe. You know, and some other, especially with the sacral being near any type of water, because that is the element of this chakra. And I think because of that too, it's really important to talk about Dr. Emoto and his work that he did with water, because, you know, again, it goes to our feelings, and our bodies are primarily made up of water. So Dr. Emoto, if you're not familiar with his study, he took like positive words, love, healing, joy, you know, all of these things that have feel good connotations with them. And then he took negative words, hate, distrust, disgust, things like that, and wrote them on pieces of paper, put the paper in water, and froze it. And the water that had all of the positive, loving words on it, when it froze and you looked at it under a microscope, there was these beautiful, like, snowflake crystalline structures within the water molecules. And the water molecules that had the negative words on there was no structure. It was like all complete disarray. And, you know, it shows you the potential of those words and how impactful that they are. And with our bodies being primarily made up of water, you know, all those times that we're saying stupid, idiot, fat, ugly, or whatever other shit that we talk to ourselves, we are imprinting that on a cellular level and into the molecules of water within us. And it's going to keep us from shining brighter, from vibing higher, right? So the more that we can talk loving, the more that we can not even just talk, but feel loving towards ourselves, the more it's going to allow us just to really shine and vibrate at that high level. I think we're all looking for, and we'll feel that within ourselves, and it's really going to allow us to feel more comfortable in relationships, again, with our partners, or just with friendships or work or any of that stuff. Like, the more we can really tap into that energy, and the more we can feed and fuel that, the better our lives become in so many ways.
Yes. And that's whether or not you're wanting to be, you know, look at this from a sexy realm or not, or a sexual realm or not. That is self-love, you know, and that's really what we all need more of in our life. It's more self-love, more pleasure, more happiness, you know. I love that.
Yes, doing the things that refill our cup, because it's so important to do that, to refill our cup, and then we have overflow to pour from. But when we don't take time to fill our cups and we're just running constantly on depleted, I mean, you see what happens to your car if you don't ever fill it with gas. Like, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
There's going to be a major malfunction. And that's the same thing within, you know, our lives too. When we don't focus and nurture ourselves at a physical, mental, and energetic level, then we're trying to pour from an empty cup, and it's really hard to see beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Wow. Well, this has been just so great, Maria. Again, thank you so much. Is there anything else left around the sacral chakra that we didn't get to on this episode that you feel is worth mentioning?
Yes. Aside from screaming, dancing is so important. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yes.
I can spend this whole time and not said anything at all about dancing. But dancing, moving your hips, moving your body. Movement is huge for this chakra, because like movement, just like creation, movement is another way to move our feelings through. So, dance and do it naked in the mirror. I mean, it's fall in love with yourself, with every part of you. So invite these things in, and the more that you do it, the more that your light is going to shine, and you're going to start creating that life that you've always wanted and dreamed of. And you really do have that power and potential, but you just got to tap into it, and that'll start to appear. So instead of feeling bad about yourself, start to feel good about yourself. All of those things that you're like, well, when I have the job, I'm going to feel this. Or when I lose 10 pounds, I'm going to feel that. Or when I get the man, then I'm going to feel this. Like, no, feel those things like right fucking now. Start vibrating with that energy now. And you're on the path to create the sexy life you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the sexy life, the intimate life, the stronger relationship, all of that. Better sex life even. Yes.
The more we can get out of our heads, the more we can enjoy the pleasure of sex, right? When we're just like constantly in our heads, the experience is not the same. So as we start to work through this, and pull ourselves out, it allows us to dive in and drop in and really enjoy the pleasure, the passion, and, the joy in life.
Yeah. And one last thing that I want to mention too is that while most of our conversation today might have seemed like we were talking specifically to women, but this is also for men too. This is for any gender, right? We all have our chakra systems. We're all energetic beings, as you said. And so some of these practices, these things that we mentioned, these are certainly things that men would be able to do as well. Spending time with themselves and all the self-love and that too. That's not just something for females.
Yes, no, so true and so important. And I'm so happy that you added that in. It is essential. And the work that I do, with our hips being like our seat of emotion and the pain that we experience, like through the hips being tied into this, so many men are tight and rigid in their hips, and they're just learning that they're allowed to talk about their feelings too, right? And even more so have shoved it down, and they're like, boys aren't allowed to cry, right? You learn that from a very early age. And so do this work, like go dance, naked in the mirror too. I mean, it's so important. Unlock that energy that is blocked. And I really recommend, again, that 60-minute course that I have, where I kind of dive into what blockages in different areas are like, because blockages in each chakra manifest in different ways. So within that course, you'll kind of see it, and then have a direction to where you may need to focus some of your work, and what exercises that you may need to do to awaken and enliven that chakra.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. And one more time, can you just share with our listeners how they can find you, what your website is, all that good stuff?
Yes. So my website is mariasellars.com, and that's mariasellars.com. And then you can find me on Instagram at Orlando Energy Worker.
Perfect. And you have a wonderful Facebook group too that, if you don't mind, I will share in the notes, in the show notes here, so people will just be able to click and take them right to it if they're interested in getting more into the energy space. Because yes, I've been in your group for a few months now, and I love it. It's a fun place to be.
Oh, awesome. Yes, please do. Please share it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hashtag all the heels.
All the heels, yeah. Thanks again, Maria. This was a great conversation, and I hope to maybe have you back on the show one day to further our conversation around chakras.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you loved it, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a thing. And if you loved it so fucking much, be sure to leave a 5-star review. I'll see you next week, and until then, keep owning your sexual self.